So, you decided you're ready to avoid even more responsibilities by adding yet another gacha game to your daily routine? If so, you're in the right place because I have some tips to help you get started in Zenless Zone Zero. What's going on, guys? Hexadaze here. The release of Zenless Zone Zero is almost here, and after years of waiting, we finally get to experience the game that Hoyoverse has been cooking. Like all gacha games, there are a ton of systems to learn when you boot up ZZZ for the first time. I've already posted guides on what I think are some of the most important aspects of the game, which are combat and team building, so if you haven't already, I suggest watching those after this one. There's still a ton to learn, so in this video, I've put together 10 tips to help you get started in ZZZ and to avoid making some of the mistakes that I did in the last closed beta test. As a disclaimer, all information in this video is based on CBT3 and is subject to change, so take it with a grain of salt. Without further ado, let's get right into the video. Disk drives are the gear in Zenless Zone Zero and are comparable to relics in Star Rail and artifacts in Genshin Impact. There are two major ways for acquiring disk drives in ZZZ. First, there are farming stages referred to as driver validation. Each stage drops 2 artifact sets, along with artifact upgrade materials called plating agents. Second is an artifact gacha system referred to as the tuning system at the Bardic Needle Music Shop. Until you reach license level 42 or account level 42 and unlock advanced tuning, the gacha currency used will be the same material that's needed to level up your disk drives. After level 42, you'll utilize a unique currency referred to as military plating agents for artifact tuning, and will eventually be able to select for disk drive set, slot, and main stat, making this a very powerful endgame system. Until this time, it may be tempting to use the artifact gacha. However, I'd recommend saving most of your plating agents for actually leveling up disk drives when you get some pieces that are worth using. Generally, either farming for disk drives or utilizing the gacha system for these early on is not recommended. Your odds of getting a good piece are very low, and you will replace these pieces as you reach account level 45 and can get guaranteed S rank drops. Instead, focus on guaranteed upgrades like character level and skill level. When you unlock the VR device, which contains your typical farming stages in Zenless Zone Zero, you'll have access to a game mode referred to as Expert Challenge. This mode drops materials that we need to level up the core skill of our characters. Core skills are a highly impactful part of a character's kit, giving things like a party-wide defense shred for Nicole's enhanced bullets, which scales from 20 to 40%, an increase in days for Lycon's charged basic attacks, which scales from 40% to 80%, or an increase in Ellen's flash freeze attacks crit damage, which scales from 50 to 100%. Core skills also include your assist and assist follow-up damage, which are further increased as this skill is leveled. When you first open this mode, you will not be able to farm all of the stages and therefore cannot farm skill level materials for all of your characters. In order to farm the other materials, you'll have to explore the Hollow Zero game mode and beat each of these bosses one time within Hollow Zero. Because Hollow Zero is a roguelike game mode, boss encounters are randomized, so this may take several attempts. The Expert Challenge menu will tell you which stages these enemies appear in, but does a poor job of explaining this in my opinion. You don't need to do this on day 1, but delaying for too long could delay your overall account progress. Zenless Zone Zero utilizes a time system consisting of morning, afternoon, evening, and midnight. As part of this system, some commissions or tasks are limited to certain parts of the day, and you'll only be able to start these during that period. Some shops that you access in town for things like obtaining food buffs will close at midnight and won't be accessible during that time. Different activities you perform in ZZZ will progress time by different amounts, with things like farming for skill level up materials or completing a combat mission progressing time by 1 period, while other tasks like eating noodles for a food buff will only progress time by 1/3 of a period. Resting on the sofa will also progress time by 1 period, however you can only rest 1 time a day, so make sure if there are certain commissions that you want to complete that you're tracking when these can be completed and not advancing time to where you'll get stuck. At launch, there are a total of 3 game modes with weekly resets. In my opinion, it's easy to miss one of these and therefore miss out on weekly time-gated content. The first mode is going to be Hollow Zero, which has 2 separate components. First is your license level progress. These are first-time rewards that you'll get just by playing the game mode. You're limited to obtain a maximum number of investigation points of 5,000 per week. Rewards from license level progress include things like EXP, summon materials, BANGBOO level materials, and actual BANGBOOs. Additionally, you'll receive weekly bounty commissions, which include completing various objectives inside of Hollow Zero, and these also give summon materials and BANGBOO level materials as rewards. The second mode is a rally commission called Area Purge. This gives general materials for character progress and will require some first-time clears to unlock. And the third mode is the Reckless Challenge, which is your typical weekly boss stage. The Reckless Challenge drops a material that is needed to level your core skill once you get past level 3. This mode can be played in multiplayer if preferred or completed solo and can be done a total of 3 times per week. The city contains a ramen shop called the Waterfall Soup Noodle Shop as well as the Cough Cafe, which provide you with food buffs. Visiting these locations will typically be part of your dailies, but you will want to utilize them regardless because of the buffs they provide. Coffee can only be drank once a day and gives a buff to character, talent, and W engine leveling material farming stages that you access through the VR device. On top of this, you'll immediately gain 60 stamina after consuming, so even if you aren't worried about farming these specific materials, the stamina is a must grab. It is tempting to grab this as soon as you log in, but to avoid capping your stamina, make sure you're not immediately taking this buff and then running modes that don't require stamina like your story content or Hollow Zero. This will be especially relevant early game when there is tons of content to clear that doesn't require stamina. Similarly, the Noodle Shop will give you combat bonuses that last a total of 3 fights. The number of fights remaining will be shown on the character selection screen. Don't forget to re-up these bonuses when they expire, as they're even applicable to modes like Hollow Zero. There are 5 agent specialties in ZZZ, including attack agents, stun agents, anomaly agents, support agents, and defense agents. Characters of each of these specialties will generally scale off of similar stats, which should be prioritized when building these characters. Stun agents generally want to be built with a high impact stat. The impact stat influences the rate at which daze accumulates on enemies, and stun agents specialize in applying daze. Anomaly agents specialize in attribute application or elemental application and applying attribute anomalies to enemies. Attribute anomalies include things like burn from fire application or shock from electric application. There are 2 stats which will increase the effectiveness of anomaly agents, which are Anomaly Mastery and Anomaly Proficiency. The Anomaly Mastery stat increases the rate of anomaly buildup on enemies, allowing you to apply an attribute anomaly more quickly. And the Anomaly Proficiency stat increases the damage dealt by attribute anomalies, for example, increasing the damage dealt by burn. Support agents carry out different roles, but are generally going to want a high amount of energy regen to apply their skills more frequently, regardless of their specialty. We only have a single defense agent in the game at this time, but Ben's core skill scales with defense, and he also wants energy regen to make maximum use of his counter skill. And finally, attack agents are your damage dealers and want to be built with damage stats like crit, attack, elemental damage, and pen ratio, where pen ratio allows you to ignore a certain amount of an enemy's defense stat. There are of course exceptions to this, so always reviewing a character's kit is the best way to determine the stats they want, typically starting with the agent's core passives. As an example, Rena is a support character, but her core passive buffs her teammates based on her pen ratio, so she's going to want to have a high amount of this stat. These are very general, but should help as you start to build and understand your characters. To be honest, it's going to take some time for the community to really min-max builds and understand everything about the game, so some general knowledge is always good for early game progress. BANGBOOs are the companions you bring into battle, similar to Else in Honkai Impact, and serve as the 4th character slot in a team. You can level up and ascend BANGBOOs, activate dupes, which is referred to as increasing the logic core level, and view your available BANGBOOs by utilizing the remodeling shop. One thing that can be easy to overlook is the modify feature, which allows you to arrange and equip various chips that buff your equipped BANGBOO. These provide pretty significant combat stat bonuses. One way for obtaining these is by purchasing them from a tiny menu within the remodeling shop, which will open up the chip shop. Here you'll be able to exchange BANGBOO leveling materials, referred to as BANGBOO software, to purchase BANGBOO chips of various rarity. Because of this, you should be cautious of leveling up BANGBOOs you may not use before looking for upgrades in this shop that may be more beneficial to your overall account progress. Chain attacks are one of your most effective ways to deal damage in ZZZ. Each character's chain attack deals about half of the damage of their ultimate ability, and you're able to stack between 1 and 3 of these depending on the type of enemy you're performing a chain attack on. BANGBOOs also have their own chain attack skill that can be utilized to do things like deal elemental damage and inflict massive elemental anomaly buildup, and BANGBOOs actually do not take up one of the available turns. However, if you skip over the BANGBOO when they show up in your chain attack, you'll miss out on the opportunity, so be sure to use them when they're up to maximize your damage and get the most out of your BANGBOOs. In CBT3, the developers introduced an easier difficulty casual mode alongside a more difficult challenge mode. This is only applicable to the story chapters of the game and does not affect any of the challenge content or endgame content, of which there is a ton to clear at the beginning of the game. If you want to be efficient with your time and don't really care about making the already easy story mode a little bit easier, just select casual mode. You'll be able to clear this content faster and get onto the exciting parts of the game. You won't lose out on any rewards by doing so there's really no disadvantages to go this route. Finally, Zenless Zone Zero is a gacha game and is not one with a large open world to explore or hours of story content like Genshin Impact or Wuthering Waves. To me, this feels very much like a side game and one that does not take long to get through your dailies. Even though the combat is certainly a more hardcore version of something like Genshin, requiring more skill for timing abilities and more time to understand the complex nature of each character's kit, it feels very much like your typical casual gacha that generally takes 10 to 15 minutes of daily upkeep outside of major patches and events. The devs have made doing your dailies insanely efficient. My advice would be to enjoy it for what it is and try to keep your expectations in line with what the game seems to want to be. The devs stated at the latest livestream they plan to add more endgame content in the future, so we'll see where it goes, but for now I see ZZZ as a casual game for fans of the action genre. Well, that's all I have for this one. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. If you found this video useful and you'd like to see more videos like this, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. I plan to continue to bring high quality Zenless Zone Zero content in the future. I'll see you soon for the next video. Peace.